welcome back to Goodbye Grains. Today we are making some mini sliders. Now instead of using a bun, we're actually going to use some slices of sweet potato to kind of act as our top and bottom to hold in our burger and all of our kind of ingredients. So you can definitely add to this whatever types of ingredients that you normally like on your burger. These are kind of some of my favorites, and also ones that add a lot of flavor and a lot of kind of something for everybody. So first thing you want to do is make sure you find a sweet potato that's more even in size. I don't know if there's a better way to explain it, but sometimes you get sweet potatoes that are like a giant mangled mess sort of, and you kind of want to find ones that are even. This way when we cut it, you kind of have even slices, circular slices. We definitely have some grass-fed ground beef. And then for my favorite toppings, we have some caramelized onions. Now these are caramelized red onions. I'll actually put a link below. I have these on the blog from kind of when I first started blogging. I made some bacon, some extra bacon the other day when I was cooking, since I knew I wanted to make something like this. So you can add some bacon. Tomato and avocado, two of my favorite ingredients on pretty much anything, burgers especially. And then to kind of season the burgers, we're going to use a little bit of kosher salt and some cracked black pepper. If you kind of like to add like granulated garlic or onion powder or something else when you make your burgers, definitely add those. I'm kind of a purist when it comes to grass-fed ground beef just because it tastes so good that I don't think you need to really add a bunch of stuff. Okay, so I peeled our sweet potato, and the first thing we're gonna do is slice these into rounds. So you can either use a mandolin, or if you want, you can also just use a knife on a cutting board. We're using this thickest setting here, so you probably won't be able to see that very well, but this is probably just over 1/4 of an inch or so, 1/4 to 1/3 of an inch. You definitely want it to be thick enough that it's kind of hearty and that you can actually grab it and it's not going to fall apart. But you also don't want it so thick that it's like you're biting into a giant chunk of sweet potato and you're not really tasting any of the meat. So I'm going to start on the side that is a little bit on the flatter side rather than this end. So I'm going to be starting here. Probably the first 1 or 2 we're not going to be saving. After that, we're going to put these onto a baking sheet and then just pour a little bit of olive oil over them, and then use, if you have one of these little brushes or you have some other pastry brush, and just kind of smear all of the oil around, and then we're going to pop these into the oven. So now that we have all of our rounds, we're going to drizzle these with the olive oil. And then you can kind of just paint these around to make sure they are evenly coated. And now we're going to sprinkle these with a little bit of kosher salt, and we are going to pop this into a 375-degree oven until they are easily pierced with a fork. So you definitely don't want to overcook these and have them be falling apart, but you also want them to not be, you know, really hard and dense. So we're gonna go pop these in. So while our sweet potato rounds are cooking, we're gonna prep the burgers. Now, since I usually make these when we're having people over or something and I don't wanna be out on the grill, especially since it's winter. We still grill in the winter, but if I'm just doing burgers, it's easier to do inside. So I'm actually gonna make them on a pan. So I have our grass-fed ground beef, and then we have our salt and pepper. And then what I use is I take a glass and I wrap it in plastic wrap. And this way I have something to help kind of press the burgers down. If you have one of those like burger patty forming kitchen tools, definitely use that. But I just use this just because it's easier to get them flat. So for every pound of ground beef that you have, you want to do about 6 to 7 burgers. You don't want these burgers to be enormous. You want them to be like sliders. So we're just going to take about 1/6 or a little bit less of the burger meat, and we're going to form it into a ball first. And you don't want to press it too much because you don't want to make the meat really dense. But you're just going to take it onto your pan And then just take your glass or whatever type of thing you have, and then you're just gonna kind of press this down. And you want to press it until it's going to be about the size of one of your sweet potato rounds. You want it to be a little bit bigger since the burgers do tend to shrink a tiny little bit. But you kind of want this. You can then use your hands a little bit and you can form it. And then after you form it a little bit, you can always go back in and press it down a little bit more. And then what you want to do is you want to kind of create a little bit of a well in the center. So if you kind of just use your couple of your fingers and just kind of press down a little bit, you want the center of the burger to almost be pushed in a little bit, and that is going to help make your burgers not be like super rounded when they come out. They'll just slightly fill in and then they'll be nice and flat. And so for each one of your burgers, you're going to make all of these and then you're going to sprinkle them with salt and pepper. Okay, so we're gonna wait for our sweet potato rounds to get out of the oven. Then we're going to increase the oven temperature to 425 degrees and put in our burger patties. While these are cooking, we are going to prep the tomato and the avocado and any other condiments that you wanna have out, and then we're gonna reheat up our bacon and our caramelized onions. Okay, so I pulled the sweet potatoes out after about 10 to 12 minutes in the oven at 375. And as you can see, they are pliable, but they're also not like falling apart. You can hold them with a single hand and they're not just disintegrating. And then I raised the oven temperature up and then cooked the burgers for about 10 minutes. It really depends on how well done you like your burgers. I like to have some pink in the middle, so I pull them out after about 10 minutes, but you certainly could keep them in there for a little bit longer. So now all you need to do is assemble them. So if you're actually putting these out for guests, you can kind of do exactly this. Maybe you won't leave them on the pans, you can put them on a plate. Otherwise you can just bring out the platters of all the different, you know, kind of toppings and then your burgers and your rounds, and people can kind of just walk around with a plate and create what they want. So you can just kind of take one. This is assuming that you're going to be making them yourself and kind of putting them out for everybody. Then you can kind of take a round, put it on the plate, and then put your burger on top. And as you can see, the burger pretty much almost exactly fits the size of the round. You want to do that as close as you can. And then I'm going to put just a piece of bacon and a little bit of the heated up caramelized onions, and then maybe just a piece or two of avocado. And then you're going to top it with one of your rounds and just kind of press that in. And then if you want to make sure they kind of stay together, especially if you're kind of walking this around, you can take, I think I've used these before for the club wraps. You can just kind of take a toothpick or some other type of skewer and then just push it all the way in. And then you have your very own little hamburger slider. So you can kind of continue with the rest of your rounds with some of the other toppings. And then also, this is my favorite mustard right now. I think I've been talking about maybe before. This is horseradish mustard. It just has vinegar, water, mustard seeds, salt, horseradish, and red pepper. And this comes from Sprouts. So I usually will have that out. Any of my other kind of sauces and ketchup, like the wasabi ketchup that I made a while back, any of those would also be great toppings. So these are a great thing to make when you're having guests over or you're having people over to watch the game, something like that, because you can kind of make the burgers and make the sweet potato rounds and then kind of have all of your other ingredients out and people can kind of assemble their burgers exactly how they want to eat them. This is also perfect to make with kids because the kids can help you kind of lay all the ingredients out and form the patties and kind of do all the prep work and not have to be near a sharp knife or near a stove. So I hope you guys will give this recipe a shot and I'll see you guys next week. Bye.